Hello, NFL fans, and welcome to Week 3 picks for every game. If you're interested in a particular game, of course, I'll put the timestamps in the description, so go ahead and check that out. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and let's get into it. So here's how I did last week. It wasn't an improvement like I hoped. I think last week I went 10-5-1, so now my record on the season is 20-11-1. Still not great in my opinion, but it could be worse. I went 10-6 last week. Got the Thursday nighter wrong. I think a lot of people were on the Panthers for that one. The Niners and Bengals, just stupid of me. I mean, I feel like I had the Niners for most of the week and just changed my opinion last second, so that was stupid. The Chargers game was so frustrating. I mean, the Chargers literally should have won that game by like 10 points, but between the missed field goals, the fumbles on the one, the touchdowns they had called back, they just shot themselves in the foot that game. Colts and Titans is kind of what I expected, very close. Some missed field goals by the Colts in that one to make it closer, but it was a close game nonetheless. Steelers and Seahawks, I mean, who knows what would have happened if Ben Roethlisberger was healthy, but Russell Wilson played a phenomenal game in that one, so they took that one by a little bit. And what else do we have? The Eagles and Falcons. I mean, oh my goodness, that game, Nelson Aguilar could have put that one away if he caught that ball. Unfortunately, he dropped it, but the Eagles took a tough loss in that one. But everything else was pretty normal. The Packers won up early pretty big, but the Vikings came back and scored like 16 unanswered, so they weren't able to overcome that. The Patriots and Dolphins, I mean, we all know what happened there. Giants and Bills. Giants still have no defense, unfortunately. Bills and Josh Allen looked really good. Cowboys and Redskins. The Cowboys made enough big plays in this game. Dak Prescott still looks really good. The Cardinals and Ravens, I mean, the Cardinals put up a decent fight, but Lamar Jackson still looked really good, so that's good news for them. The Jaguars and Texans, very, very close game. It was literally a game decided by inches. If you didn't watch the end of that game, I recommend doing so. That was an awesome game right there. Justin Reed made a great play on Leonard Fournette to stop him short of a 2-point conversion. So that was an awesome game. The Chiefs and Raiders, I think the Raiders were up 10-0 in this game and ended up losing like 28-10. So Patrick Mahomes had the greatest second quarter in NFL history probably. He had 4 touchdowns in one quarter. So, I mean, that game was over at halftime basically. Bears and Broncos, another amazing game. Looked like the Broncos had it won. That's another game you should probably go and watch the end of. The way it worked was, how did it go? So, like, the Broncos were going to go for 2. They were down 1, I believe. They were going to go for 2. Then they had a delay of game penalty, pushed them back. They decided to go for the extra point, and then Buster's screen of the Bears went off sides. So then they decided to go for 2 again, and they did get the 2-point conversion to Emmanuel Sanders, and then somehow the Bears went up and down the field. In like 30 seconds, they got a field goal off with 1 second left with Eddie Pinheiro, I believe his name is, a rookie kicker. I don't know if he's a rookie, but I think it's his first year on the Bears, obviously. So game-winning like 52, 53-yard field goal for him. That was good to see. Saints and Rams, I mean, Drew Brees got injured, and really it wasn't a game after that. Cooper Kupp had that amazing catch and almost scored on that, so that was a nice play by him. But obviously with no Drew Brees, it wasn't much of a contest. And Browns and Jets, same thing. I mean, with no starting quarterback for the Jets, I was actually at that game. Wasn't the most exciting game. It was cool to see Odell Beckham take an 89-yard slant to the house, so it was cool to see him come back to MetLife and do that. But the Browns made pretty easy work of the Jets in that one, so that's pretty much how Week 2 went. Not too in-depth, but that's basically everything right there you need to know. And let's get into the Week 3 predictions now. As always, we start with the Thursday nighter. We have the Tennessee Titans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a game I never look forward to on a Thursday night, but hey, it's still NFL football, so I'm going to watch it. Right now, the Tennessee Titans are favored by 1.5. Kind of makes sense. They are the better team, I would say. Jaguars are off to an 0-2 start, the rough loss in Houston last week. So, what to watch here, or some notes I have, I should say. Jalen Ramsey is demanding a trade, apparently. Not sure where he's going to go. Of course, there's every fan base wants the guy, obviously, for good reason. Tremendous player, but just seems like him and Doug Marrone are just not on the same page. They had an altercation during the game, so he should play in this game unless he gets traded, obviously, in the next 24 hours. I have no idea if that'll happen or not, but he is expected to play in this game. Both teams coming off tough losses. Tennessee coming off the loss against the Colts at home, so that sucks for them. Jacksonville, as I went over before, had the game against the Texans where they were inches away from taking the lead with like 30 seconds left, so they were very close to being 1-1 themselves. We have a nice running back battle. We have Leonard Fournette against Derrick Henry, so that'll be fun to watch. Those guys should get the ball a lot. I mean, this game should be pretty close throughout, so I think the game scripts for running backs will be pretty good. Low-scoring game, probably. I don't know what the over-under is, but these aren't very high-powered offenses. I mean, if Nick Foles was still in Jacksonville, I could see them putting up a decent amount of points, but I just don't really expect it with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, and then Marcus Mariota, I mean, he hasn't been too impressive this year. He's been all right. He hasn't done anything to lose them games yet, but he hasn't really gone above and beyond yet this season. I really don't expect him to either, but I do have the Titans winning this game. I think they're just a better team. I think Jacksonville's defense and Tennessee's defense are closer than people think. I don't think the Titans' defense gets enough credit, and I do believe the Titans have more offensive firepower, so I'm going to go with them. They're close defensively, but I think the Titans are a little better offensively, so wouldn't shock me if the Jaguars won this game, but I am picking the Titans. I like their offense more, but we'll see what happens. Let's go with the Titans for Thursday night. Next, for the 1 o'clock Sunday games, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at 0-2 against the undefeated Buffalo Bills at 2-0. 1 o'clock game, as I said, I picked the Buffalo Bills to win this game and advance to 3-0. So here's the notes here. Is Buffalo a serious contender? Of course, I have them going 3-0 in this game. How legit is this Bills team? I mean, I watched a lot of them because I am from New Jersey, so I got to watch them in the Jets game, and of course I watched every snap of the Giants game. And, they were not too impressive offensively in that Jets game in the first half, or the first 3 quarters, I should say. Josh Allen and the Bills offense had a great fourth quarter in that Jets game, but against the Giants, Josh Allen looked really good. It's probably the best game I've seen him play overall. I understand he had a great Week 17 against Miami, I think it was last year, but I think, his performance in Week 2, Josh Allen's, was amazing. He made some plays that I did in my breakdown video that I said only maybe a handful of quarterbacks can make. I mean, he's literally doing things that I don't see many quarterbacks doing in the NFL. Like, he can ankle break a cornerback and then roll out and make a perfect throw on the run. I mean, Josh Allen is just amazing sometimes. This is the Bills home opener, and I feel like that's pretty big news. The Bills Mafia, as we all know, one of the craziest fan bases in football, so that's not easy for Cincinnati to go into. Cincinnati is coming off a very bad game against San Francisco at home. I don't know how legit the 49ers are, but to give up 40 points to them, or 40-plus points to them, that seems a little bit crazy, so not a good look for them. And as I said, Josh Allen looked great in Week 2 and, the fourth quarter of Week 1. Cincinnati right now, I think I listened to it on a podcast. They have an interesting stat that they have a 4-to-1 pass to rush ratio, which means they throw the ball 4 times for every time they run the ball. That's like by far the highest in the NFL. So Zach Taylor and his offense are definitely not afraid to throw the ball. But this is one of the best passing defenses in football, so we'll see what they do. And can Andy Dalton pass on this defense? I don't know. I'm not expecting it. As I said, the Bills, they have one of the better defenses in football, especially their secondary, so we'll see what happens. I think the Bills will take this one pretty comfortably, but, I think that Bengals have a shot, but I do think the Bills will win this game pretty comfortably, so I'm going with them in this first Sunday matchup. The 0-2 Denver Broncos traveled to Wisconsin to play the Packers at 2-0 this season. Good for the Packers. I do have the Packers winning this game. Denver is coming off a very, very tough loss. I went over that game earlier. I mean, they just had that game taken away from them. It was weird because the clock hit, triple zeros at one point, and it seemed like the game was over, but then the refs had like a little discussion. They gave the Bears an extra second left on the clock, and then they kicked the game-winning field goal. So for about 5 to 10 seconds, the Broncos thought they were 1-1 on the season. Obviously, they had that tough Monday night game against the Raiders in Week 1. So, I mean, who knows what kind of mental state the Broncos are in right now. The Packers, a big division win last week against the Vikings. They put up 21 points quickly and were able to coast and take that game, so that's big for them. Joe Flacco still looks underwhelming in my opinion. He looked pretty good, I guess, the last 2 drives of the fourth quarter in the last game against the Bears. I understand the Bears are a very tough defense, but he didn't do much against the Raiders, and they don't have a great defense. I mean, it's been all right, but it's not a great defense. I mean, no. They got killed by Mahomes in the second quarter of that last game, so I can't really say they're all right, but it is Patrick Mahomes, so we got to give him some slack there. The Packers offense is still looking to click. I mean, it hasn't really fully blossomed yet. It's, of course, the first year of the Matt LaFleur system for Aaron Rodgers in this offense, and it's only been 2 games, but I think, eventually, as the season goes on, I think, the Packers will eventually pick it up offensively. The Packers haven't scored like 30 points in a while. I feel like they haven't really done that. Maybe they do it here. Denver's defense isn't what it used to be, and, we'll see if they can do it here at home. The Packers defense is still looking really good, Last game, they held the Vikings to 16 points. The Vikings probably should have had more points. They had some points called back due to, I think, offensive pass interference or something like that, but they still looked pretty good. I mean, they held the Bears to 3 points, and then the Vikings to 16. So, I mean, still under 20 points on the season for them in 2 games. It's a good look for them. And where has Von Miller been? I mean, Von Miller is still technically in his prime. I think he's like 29, 30 years old. But he has no quarterback hurries or like no pressures at all this year. And it's very weird. I mean, obviously he's going to play a lot, him and Bradley Chubb. But I feel like these guys have not done a lot this year, especially Von Miller. So we'll see if he can get it going in this game. And the Packers have a pretty good offensive line, so we'll see. They will pass the ball a lot, obviously. So, I don't know. Packers are at -7.5. I could see a way for the Broncos to win this game. I'm just not expecting it personally, so give me the Packers to win this game. The Miami Dolphins go on the road for the first time, and obviously we know how their first 2 home games went. Not good. Maybe the road is their secret weapon, and maybe they'll just go undefeated on the road this year. No, I'm kidding. But they'll be playing the Dallas Cowboys, who have looked very impressive the first 2 weeks. They're at 2-0 this season, beating the Giants and the Redskins. So the notes for this game, I mean, before I get into that, obviously I have the Cowboys winning this game. I don't think, when you're talking about the spread, though, at 21.5, I mean, I honestly would probably still pick the Cowboys. I mean, until I see the Dolphins play like a legitimate NFL team, you might as well pick these ridiculous spreads. I mean, they've lost by a combined 102-10 this year, as you can see in my notes there. That is insane. I've never seen anything like that. How do you lose in the NFL 2 weeks in a row 102-10? That's very hard to do because, you consider like the garbage time and like defenses playing like prevent defense after a while. Like, you really think the Patriots defense and the Ravens defense was trying too hard in the second half? I feel like they weren't, but like still 10 points to show for it, and you give up over 100 in 2 games. So when you're giving up 51 points per game, I mean, that is just absolutely terrible. So no more Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was traded to the Steelers for a first-round pick. I think that trade made sense for both sides. I understand Minkah's 22 years old, so it's tough to give up on a guy that young, but doesn't seem like the Dolphins will be too relevant for the next couple of years, so I understand that move. I get it from the Steelers side as well. The Steelers definitely struggle with slot coverage and recovering slot receivers, I should say, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of the best at that. So, I mean, this move makes sense on both sides. I get it. Ryan Fitzpatrick's still the starter in Miami. Doesn't really make sense to me. I am a Josh Rosen lover, and I have been since college, but, like, they're not giving him a shot for some reason. I mean, Josh Rosen can't be that bad. I've definitely watched enough of Rosen in my life to know he's not that bad. If Josh Rosen can't throw for 89 yards and 3 interceptions like Fitzpatrick is, he might as well not be in the NFL. I mean, I think that's what his line was, Fitzpatrick, if I got it right. But Josh Rosen came in last game, made 2 really nice throws that were dropped, so he should have had 2 touchdowns. I believe he had an interception on that stupid play. I think Kalen Ballage or some running back just dropped the ball and threw it into a Patriots defender's hands, and he ran it in for a touchdown. I think it was Jamie Collins who got an interception credited for that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this game. I have Dallas winning very comfortably. I guess I would pick Dallas if I was picking against the spread because, the Dolphins have looked terrible, and now they're on the road. So we'll see what they do. Hopefully it's not too embarrassing for Miami fans, but I feel like they don't care at this point anyway. They just want to lose. So we'll see what happens. So I'm going with Dallas in this game. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are favored by 1.5 points. I guess that makes sense to me. This should be a fun game. We don't see the Falcons and Colts play each other too much. So, I mean, this would have been more fun if Andrew Luck was still here. But still, I mean, this will be a fun game anyway. Should be a close one, obviously, based off the spread. I do have the Colts winning this game. Atlanta got very lucky to win that game on Sunday night if you watched that one. Of course, the Nelson Aguilar drop was the difference of them winning this game, and a very questionable play on the Julio Jones screen pass that, went for a long touchdown. I don't know what the defensive coordinator was doing on that play. I forget the guy's name now who used to coach the Lions, but I didn't really get that what he was doing on defense there. It was stupid. He basically sent everybody, it seemed like, and left his cornerbacks in man coverage, and there was really no one to stop Julio once he got past the first guy. So don't know what they were doing there, but I'm still not sold on the Falcons, as I said. I mean, Matt Ryan threw some really bad interceptions in that game on Sunday, and he has not looked that great this year. He threw a really bad red zone interception as well, and Matt Ryan's usually good for those red zone interceptions. The Colts are coming off a big win against the Titans, a division foe, so that's big for them. So we'll see if they can carry that momentum into this game at home. It's the Indianapolis home opener as well, so that's good for them. The Falcons were terrible on the road in week 1. This is their second road game of the season. Their first road game was when they went down 28-0 to the Vikings, who, the Vikings are probably a little bit better than the Colts, but not by a lot. They're very close, I would say. So, maybe Atlanta doesn't play it well on the road once again. We'll see. Better offensive line, I would give it to Indianapolis, and the better defense I give to Indianapolis. So they're at home. I'm going with the Colts in this one. I do think they'll win this, and I probably would bet on the Colts if I were going to bet this. So give me the Colts in this matchup. The Baltimore Ravens at 2-0 face the 2-0 Kansas City Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs to win this game. If the season were to end today, which I don't know what kind of season ends after 2 weeks, but if it were to end today, we would see the matchup of the 1 and 2 players in the MVP race most likely. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes are just playing out of their minds. It's the usual for Patrick Mahomes, but I'm sure a lot of people did not expect that from Lamar Jackson. I expected Jackson to take a step forward this year, but not this quick and not this great, but he has played some very below average defenses, and we'll leave it at that. So this is the Chiefs home opener. I do have them winning the game for that reason. If this was in Baltimore, I'd be very tempted to pick the Ravens. I don't know what the spread would be, but it definitely would not be -7 still. It'd probably be a lot closer, honestly, maybe 2.5 points in favor of the Chiefs or something like that. This is the first real test for Lamar Jackson. As I said, they open with the Dolphins. That's easy. Then they face the Arizona Cardinals at home. Another easy matchup. The Cardinals defense has looked a little better than I expected, but still, it's not a good defense overall. And the Chiefs defense isn't great either, but this is definitely going to be like a shootout type of game, so we'll see what really Lamar Jackson's made of in this game. Mahomes is coming off a 4-touchdown performance in the second quarter of that Raiders game, and I've never seen anything like that. I think I was playing Mahomes in a fantasy football matchup, and he had 1.7 points at the end of the first quarter, and I was like, all right, this is good. And then I look at halftime, I'm like, oh my, he had 28 points at halftime or something. It was crazy. But so can Baltimore's defense hold Kansas City under 30 points? I feel like that's what they have to do in order to try and win this game. I don't see Baltimore scoring over 30 unless Lamar Jackson just blows us away again. Who knows at this point, but I think their goal should be to hold the Chiefs under 30 points. It's hard to do, obviously, but Baltimore's defense has looked pretty good. I understand they played some, below average teams, and they held the Cardinals to 17, which I guess is all right, but the Chiefs are just a whole different level of great on offense, so we'll see what they can do on defense. And a battle of two really good head coaches, so, John Harbaugh and Andy Reid, so we'll see, which one has the upper hand with coaching. I think both of them are really good coaches, and that'll be fun to watch when big decisions are on the line and stuff like that. But it'll be a fun game. Do have the Chiefs winning this one because they're at home, so I'm going with Kansas City. The Detroit Lions come in at 1-0-1 on the season, and they're against the Philadelphia Eagles at home, who come in at 1-1. That tough Sunday night loss, we'll see how they respond to that. They might not have their top wide receiver, Alshon Jeffrey, in this game, their second wide receiver, Deshaun Jackson, and their second tight end, who's still a very good tight end, Dallas Goedert, might be out in this game, so we have to monitor that, obviously. But I can't wait till Sunday morning to make these picks, so I'm just going based off of if these guys are out. But it really doesn't matter to me either way. I'm going to have the Eagles winning this game regardless. Detroit's coming off of, I don't want to call anything a lucky win in the NFL, but what happened with the Chargers in that Sunday game in Detroit is just unheard of. They left so many points on the field, and it was just unfortunate based off the missed field goals and the Austin Eckler touchdown that was called back, and Austin Eckler fumbling on the 1-inch line. So just crazy stuff like that happened, and it was unfortunate, and it's just an unlucky loss right there for the Chargers, and I feel like Detroit got a little lucky with that one. Doug Peterson, a much better coach than Matt Patricia. I personally have no faith in Matt Patricia. He really hasn't proven anything to me yet that he really knows what he's doing as a head coach, so we'll see. He could prove me wrong. This game's in Philadelphia, which definitely helps a lot. Right now it's a -6.5 for Philly. If I was betting against the spread, I might take the Lions. It's compelling, but I probably would still pick the Eagles. I feel like they can win this one by 7 or more, so give me the Eagles to win this game, and give me them to cover the spread as well. The New York Jets at 0-2 against the Patriots at 2-0. This might be a very ugly game. I think this is the biggest spread on the slate. -22.5 for the Patriots. Of course, no Sam Darnold in this game, is expected to miss. And Luke Falk against Tom Brady in this game. Marquee matchup right there. I mean, I don't know much about Luke Falk. Of course, as I said, I was at the game when he came in, and it was pretty funny because when Luke Falk came in, literally all he was doing was heading the ball off to Le'Veon Bell, and they kept gaining yards, and fans were going crazy for Luke Falk, and they were going Luke and all crazy stuff like that. But I really don't think he's anything good. I wasn't too impressed with him. So the Jets have a potential to start 0-6 this year. I put their schedule in here. So they lose at the Patriots, which would be this week. 0-3, they have a bye week, then Sam Darnold would most likely come back. They're at the Eagles, that's probably a loss. Then you have the Cowboys, probably a loss. Then you have the Patriots, probably a loss. And then the Jets are at 0-6. So they do have the Jaguars, Dolphins, Giants after that. They should at least win one of those games. So I don't know how ugly it'll get for the Jets this year, but their schedule has not been too kind to them or won't be too kind to them in the future. The Patriots looked dominant last game, especially their defense, but they did play the Dolphins, and they even beat up the Steelers. So, I mean, who knows? It's crazy how good the Patriots are this year, and this really shouldn't be close at all. If I'm the Patriots, I'm not playing my starters past halftime. I wouldn't risk anything, but we'll see how Bill Belichick does it because he obviously knows more than any of us, so we'll see what he does. But I'd be surprised, honestly, if Tom Brady's still out there in the third quarter. The 1-1 Oakland Raiders travel to Minnesota to play the 1-1 Vikings. I like the Vikings a lot in this game. I think they'll win by more than the 8.5 point spread. I think they'll win by at least 13 points, I would say. I mean, I expect just a no-show from the Raiders offense today in this game, or not today. I don't know why I said today, but Sunday in this game. So Oakland, it's their first road game of the season. They had 2 games in Oakland to start up. They had the Monday night win. They had the loss against the Chiefs, which everyone expected last Sunday. Kirk Cousins, I always say DeMarcus Cousins. I want to say DeMarcus Cousins. I need to write Kirk Cousins from now on. Kirk Cousins against a bad team obviously is much better than him against a 500 or better team. Right now the Raiders are a 500 team, but they definitely won't finish like that. They'll probably be below 500, so this is not a good team. I expect Kirk Cousins to have a nice game. He's in a good spot here. Dalvin Cook should once again do very well. He had over 100 yards, or well over 100 yards against the Packers defense last game. I think Dalvin Cook probably leads the NFL in rushing right now. I'm not sure about it, but he has to be up there. Derek Carr looked really bad in week 2. Had that really terrible red zone interception. He was trying to throw a back shoulder fade to Tyrell Williams and just threw it right to Rashad Breeland, I think it was, on the Chiefs, and it was an easy interception, and he just did not look good in that game at all, so we'll see if he can bounce back and look more like the week 1 Derek Carr. Richie Incognito, this will help Derek Carr, returns from suspension. He was suspended the first 2 games of this season, so he'll be back in this game, probably at left guard or right guard, wherever he's at, probably left guard. So yeah, I do have the Vikings winning this game comfortably. Don't really think the Raiders will surprise us at all. I think it's just going to be a stagnant offensive day for them. Minnesota's defense is very good, so they're at home, and I think it'll be an easy win for them. On to the 4 o'clock matchups, we have the Carolina Panthers at 0-2, surprisingly, against the 0-1 Arizona Cardinals. I am picking the Cardinals in this game. For some reason, I'm just all in on the Cardinals this week. We don't know if Cam Newton's going to play or not, but really it doesn't matter to me. Cam Newton looked absolutely terrible on Thursday Night Football last week, so it really doesn't matter to me if Cam plays. Of course, it would help if he wasn't playing. I don't know who the backup for Carolina is. It might be Will Grier. I don't know if he's ready to play or not. There might be some other veteran there that I'm unsure of, but we'll see. Arizona can move the ball. I think they've proved it by now. They had a rough going in the first 3 quarters of week 1, but after that they were fine. They looked fine in where were they last week? In Baltimore. That's a tough matchup right there when you're in Baltimore, but they were still moving the ball. They weren't very efficient in the red zone, but they're still able to move the ball. I think they'll be fine at home this week against the Panthers defense. And Arizona's defense, as I mentioned before, I think they look better than I expected. I mean, Arizona had probably the worst defense in football last year, or bottom 3, but this year, I mean, it doesn't look that bad yet. They haven't faced the best teams. I mean, the Ravens are good, but the Lions, they made the Lions offense look really good, so there is that. But I think against the Panthers team with an injured Cam Newton, it won't be that bad. I think the Buccaneers kind of just gave us the blueprint of how to beat this team. You just don't let Christian McCaffrey beat you, and you'll have a good chance of winning. So we'll see if they can do that and contain him. And can Carolina's defense get to Kyler? That's a big thing. I mean, they do have some pass rushers on Carolina, but, I'm not sure if they can get to him or not. He's just very elusive and very hard to tackle. He's easy to tackle, I guess, but, the tough part is wrapping him up. There's really no way you can do it. He is crazy elusive. You have to get, a bunch of guys in at the same time. I mean, or else he'll probably probably get out of it. So very hard to sack Kyler Murray. We know the Cardinals' offensive line isn't great, but if there's a lot of defensive pressure and they can hit him a lot, then maybe they have a shot in this one. But I am picking the Cardinals, and I feel good about it at -2.5. I would bet this one if I was going to bet it, and I do have the Cardinals winning this one outright. Next, we have my New York Giants at 0-2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 1-1 coming off that Thursday night win. So they get the extended rest. I forgot to include that, but they do have a few extra off days to prepare for this game. I do have the Buccaneers winning this game by a little bit. I'm excited for the Giants offense because Daniel Jones, the 6th overall pick for the Giants in this year's draft, is making his NFL debut, making the start for the team. And I think the Giants offense will look a little bit better, but the Giants defense right now looks like a college football defense. I mean, there's really nothing going on right there in the secondary for them especially. And I think Jameis Winston has enough weapons to tear them apart. I mean, O.J. Howard has yet to do much this year, but I think the Giants just do not cover tight ends very well at all. And I think that's a good spot for him to bounce back. Mike Evans has not had a big game yet, but I think this is the week he might do it. Chris Godwin's been on fire this year, so I mean, the Giants don't have enough good players in their secondary or on their defense overall to cover all these guys. We never know with Jameis Winston. He can completely implode, and maybe the Giants get a few turnovers and win this game. But you know what? I think right now I would have to pick the Buccaneers. They're at -6.5. I would not bet this. I think the Giants lose by like 3 or 4 points. I think it's closer than that, but it is a great spot for Jameis. The Giants offense, I think, will look a little better. I think right now at this point in Eli's career, maybe Daniel Jones looks a little better. I'm not completely sold on that, but I mean, yeah, we never know. I mean, you have no idea how a rookie quarterback's going to play in his NFL debut. If someone tells you they know how Daniel Jones is going to play, don't believe him because obviously we don't know. Just making assumptions. I think the Giants offense will look a bit better in this game, but it won't be enough to overcome the Giants' defensive struggles, and I give this one to the Buccaneers. Next, we have the Houston Texans against the Los Angeles Chargers. Both teams are 1-1. The website I used did not have the spread up for this game, but I looked it up on another website, and it was -3.5, which seemed fair, so I went with that. And I do have the Texans winning this game. I picked them outright, and it might be a little bit surprising, but I am a big Texans guy, and the Chargers injuries still scare me. Their offensive line looked good last week against the Detroit Lions, who do have a pretty good defensive line, so I give them credit, but we'll see if the Texans defense can change that. This game is on the road for the Texans, but I just feel good about Deshaun Watson in this spot. I feel like he'll bounce back after a pretty quiet week 2 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he'll bounce back nicely in this spot right here. The Texans are coming off of very close wins. Let's see if they can carry that momentum. The Chargers coming off a very tough loss, as I went over before, against Detroit, so I'm sure they'll be motivated. I'm sure both teams will be motivated to win this game, especially coming in at 1-1. The Texans and Chargers, of course, they have questionable offensive lines. I just gave the Chargers credit. Their offensive line looked good last week against a good Detroit defensive line. But the Texans' offensive line, still too many issues there, whether Laramie Tunsil's there or not. It's just still not a good offensive line. Too many holes there, and I am expecting a high-scoring game, and we'll see who wins this shootout. I am giving it to the Texans, but of course it would not surprise me if the favored Chargers went on to win this game. But I do think, a young Deshaun Watson against a very, I don't want to say very old, but a much older Phillip Rivers. I trust Deshaun Watson to make more plays in this game, and I'm giving the Texans the win for that reason. The New Orleans Saints go to the Seattle Seahawks, who are 2-0 on the season. The Saints are 1-1. Of course, there's no Drew Brees in this game. This is Teddy Bridgewater, not his first start as a Saint. I think his second, because I think he started Week 17 last year. I believe Drew Brees sat out that game because they didn't really need to play him. So this is the second start for Teddy Bridgewater, and he's a very competent backup. He looked all right against the Rams, but he was thrown into the game, so he wasn't really expecting to play. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them between Bridgewater and Taysom Hill. I saw a report today that it might be a 50-50 split at quarterback, which I've never heard before. We hear that about running backs a lot, but a 50-50 split at quarterback is a very interesting philosophy, and I feel like if someone could pull it off, I feel like Sean Payton would be a good coach to do so. So that'll be interesting. But I tweeted the other day, I'm actually very interested to see a Taysom Hill offense for an entire game. I mean, we won't see it obviously because Teddy Bridgewater is going to play in this game, but if Taysom Hill got every play, I mean, I feel like it'd be a very fun offensive game, and there'd be a lot of crazy-ass play calls, but we won't see. We might see some crazy play calls in this game. If there's any game to do it, it's probably this one because, you're already at a disadvantage. The Seahawks are a -4, so we'll see what kind of tricks that Sean Payton has up his sleeve. The Seattle offensive line issues, it just happens year after year. I think Russell Wilson was sacked at least a few times against Pittsburgh last week. They still won the game, but we'll see if Cam Jordan and Davenport can get to Russell Wilson. Of course, Russell Wilson is good at getting away from pass rushers, but, enough pressure can definitely throw off any quarterback. Kamara should be used a ton in this game. He had an off game against the Rams last week. They didn't really utilize him the way they usually do, and I'm sure Drew Brees not being there had a lot to do with it, and he was in a great matchup, but, it is what it is. So we'll see how much they use Kamara this week. I expect them to use him a lot. Jared Cook needs to step up. Jared Cook is definitely known for dropping the ball, and a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, who does not take many deep shots, is going to rely on his tight end a lot. So Jared Cook cannot have the Butterfinger hands today, or I don't know why I say today. On Sunday, he needs to be a reliable target for this team and make catches when the ball is in his chest. So we'll see if he can do that. I do have the Seahawks winning this game. I think it'll be a close one. I like the -4 number. I believe that's fair. I don't really have a good feel for it. I wouldn't bet this game, but I do have the Seahawks winning this one. Of course, it wouldn't surprise me if the Saints won this game, but I think them being at home and Russell Wilson against Teddy Bridgewater, so give me the Seattle Seahawks in this game. The Mason Rudolph-led Pittsburgh Steelers come in at 0-2 against the San Francisco 49ers, who are 2-0 on the season. This game is at San Francisco, of course, so Mason Rudolph making his first NFL start. I personally watched a lot of Mason Rudolph in college because, at the time, I figured my Giants were going to get a quarterback, so of course I watched a lot of quarterback film, and I watched Mason Rudolph, and I was impressed. I think there's going to be some growing pains with him, but I like what he brings to the table. I think he'll be fine, and I think eventually by the end of the year, there might be a decision for the Steelers to make if they even want to bring Ben Roethlisberger back, because if Mason Rudolph makes enough strides and shows that he's the future of this team, why would you bring Ben Roethlisberger back? You know what I mean? We'll see what happens the rest of the season. It'll be interesting. Minkah Fitzpatrick brought into Pittsburgh, possibly making his debut. I think he'll make his debut in this game. And as I mentioned before, I think in the Miami game, much needed upgrade for this Pittsburgh secondary. They need someone who can guard slot receivers, and I think that was a great move by them. I understand it's a first-round pick, but hey, you're kind of trying to win right now. Maybe Ben comes back next year and you don't really need that first round pick. It's nice to have first round picks, but Minkah's 22 years old, so you're really not missing much there. Jimmy Garoppolo coming off a big game. Garoppolo had kind of an iffy game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers week 1, but week 2 looked really good. The Niners did a lot of damage on the ground, but Jimmy Garoppolo got in on the fun as well, almost had 300 yards, I believe. And the Niners had a great game on the ground last week. As I said, I think they had like 250 rushing yards or something crazy against the Cincinnati Bengals, so we'll see if they can do that again. Obviously, the Steelers probably have a better defense than Cincinnati, but won't be that crazy. It's the first home game for San Francisco. They're coming in 2-0. I'm sure those fans have not seen 2-0 in a while, so I'm sure they'll be up for the challenge. They'll be very loud, and it'll be a tough atmosphere for the Steelers in all likelihood. But as I said, don't underestimate Mason Rudolph. I feel like, if you're feeling bold and risky and you want to bet a money line with good odds, I feel like taking the Steelers is not a bad idea. I feel like maybe the Niners have a mindset that they won't take this game too seriously because hey, they're like, it's Mason Rudolph, who cares, and they might just take this game a little nonchalantly in the first half, and maybe the Steelers get off to a good start. We'll see, but who knows? I feel like if you can bet maybe a halftime score and have the Steelers winning it, maybe that's the way to go. But who knows? They might catch them off guard, but I don't know for sure. I am going to pick the Niners to win this game outright, but as I said, would not shock me if the Steelers won this game and surprised everybody. But I am going to go with the Niners in this game. The Los Angeles Rams come in at 2-0 to face the Cleveland Browns, coming off a win to make them 1-1 on the season. This will be a very crazy atmosphere. I think, this is the second home game for the Cleveland Browns, but when was the last time the Browns were on Monday night, or Sunday Night Football, I should say, or even Monday Night Football, but still, they don't get too many primetime games in that area, so I think these fans will be crazy. The Browns do have some good fans, and I'm sure they'll be loud, so it'll be a tough atmosphere for the Rams to play in. So Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff, I feel like they've yet to reach their peak yet this season. Jared Goff played better in week 2 as compared to week 1, but we still haven't seen peak Jared Goff yet, and same with Baker Mayfield. As I said, I was at the game. I saw Baker Mayfield overthrow a couple of receivers on separate occasions, and didn't look all that great. He didn't look great in week 1, obviously, but it was better than week 1, so these guys are improving as the games go on. So maybe Baker and Goff have a really nice shootout type of game, and they both play well. That would be the most enjoyable outcome of this game. As I mentioned, tough environment to play in. The Browns have some very rowdy fans, and there's a lot of big-name skill position players in this game. Of course, you look at the Rams, and they have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and who's the other two? Brandon Cooks, Todd Gurley, Jared Goff, and then you look at the Browns, they have Nick Chubb, of course, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. I believe David Njoku's out. I saw he broke his wrist, so highly doubt David Njoku plays in this game, but still, he was part of this offense, and that's a pretty big loss for them. The +3 for the Browns seems a bit confusing. I feel like the Rams will win this game by more than 3 points, so I would definitely be willing to bet this game. Obviously, based off of that, I'm going with the Rams. I feel like they'll win this game, by at least 6 points, so could be wrong. I mean, maybe they don't play well in Cleveland, but I do like the Rams roster a lot more. I like their coach a lot more, so I am going to go with the Browns, or going to go with the Rams in this game. Last, for Monday Night Football, we have the Chicago Bears at 1-1 against the Washington Redskins, who are 0-2. The Redskins played the 2 top teams in the NFC East, the Eagles and the Cowboys, so some tough matchups for them. They were able to keep those matchups somewhat close, so I give them credit for that, so they're probably not as bad as the public thinks they are. And the Chicago Bears, they had a lucky win against the Denver Broncos last week. The refs gave them that extra second and allowed Pinheiro to hit that long field goal, so I don't want to call it a lucky win, but still, the refs granted them the extra second, even though the time had 0-0-0 on it, but still, it's a win nonetheless. David Montgomery, I think the Bears running back, the rookie, could have a breakout game in this one. He went from 5 carries to 18 carries last game. He wasn't too efficient in Denver, but he found the end zone, looked all right, and I feel like that if they give him over 18 carries again, I feel like he could have a huge game in this one, so we'll see if he can break out on Monday Night Football. And I was thinking to myself, is Mitch Trubisky better than Case Keenum? I really don't know. I'm sure Bears fans would argue that, but honestly, Case Keenum's looked all right this year. Keenum had a great 2017 season. He wasn't good last year on Denver, but still, I'm not positive about that, honestly. I feel like there's a world where Case Keenum has a better game, so we'll see how the quarterbacks play. And I think Washington could definitely win this game. I think Washington, as I said, is a bit underrated. They had some tough matchups, and this is a tough matchup once again. Playing the Bears defense is not easy, but I feel like them being at home and the Bears offense struggling so far this year and probably will struggle the rest of the year unless Mitch Trubisky gets his act together, might be a tough game for them, so we'll see. But I do have the Bears winning this game. Should be a fun one, hopefully, on Monday Night Football. That'll do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you disagree on any games, let me know in the comments, and we'll have a whole discussion there. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe, and comment if you want more videos like this weekly. And as always, I'll talk to you guys next time.